Welcome back to another preview. I'm Andy Kuhn, joined by Delaney Barrow, and we're going to talk about the Iron Bowl recap, as well as basketball on the Plains last night, and bowl projections for Auburn football this weekend. So Delaney, let's get into the Iron Bowl. It was a classic between two big heavyweights in the state of Alabama, and Auburn was able to overcome Alabama by a final of 48-45 in what was probably one of the most surprising games of the season. What was your take from the game, and how crazy was that?
It was so crazy. The atmosphere was incredible. It was so high scoring, which I don't think was either of us expected because of Auburn's strong defense. But with 98 total points scored, and with Alabama's backup QB, Mac Jones, he really came to play, and their offense never faltered for 1 minute, and the Tigers fought right back, and it was not a slow game at any point.
Yeah, 515 yards from Alabama's offense. You would think that's going to propel your team to a win, but Auburn's defense hung around, and they were able to make big plays, including getting 14 points on the board for their team. How big was the defense's contribution, even though they kind of were tested, but they didn't falter in the end?
The defense's contribution was huge. They were pushed, but they pushed right back. And like you said, those 14 points scored on defense from interceptions, those really helped to propel the Tigers to victory.
Yeah, for sure. And then also the big play at the end on the final drive, they made the missed field goal happen with the pressure on the kick. But also the big play was Derek Brown in the play before that, batting down the pass from Mac Jones, because you never know where that was going. It could have been a touchdown to take the lead. So Auburn's defense can prove that they're able to make stops even when they're tested like this, and it was another classic. Now, also, let's talk about the offense, as they were able to have a big game, 181 yards rushing, and then Bo Nix threw for over 300. What does this tell you about the offense and where they're going right now as a team?
I think the offense has a lot of potential, and Bo Nix passed the freshman quarterback passing record at Auburn, and so I think that speaks a lot about his potential in the upcoming years and just how much room that they have to grow.
Yeah, for sure. And Bo also broke a freshman record that Stan White had when he played at Auburn, and Stan threw for 14 touchdown passes as a freshman. Bo now has 15, so that's a huge stat for him, give him confidence going on into the rest of the season. Now, let's talk about bowl projections, as this weekend will be the unveiling of all the bowls as well as the college football playoff. And Auburn right now is in a good spot to get a really good New Year's Day bowl, maybe even a New Year's Six if things shake out the way they would want to. So what do you think Auburn will end up at? And it's looking like maybe in Florida, maybe in Texas, we'll see. But where do you think Auburn will end up?
I think sitting at 11, they have a pretty good chance at likely a good bowl game. But I think probably Citrus Bowl would be a good place for them to land.
Yeah, for sure. And Auburn would play a Big Ten team. It's looking like either Minnesota or Wisconsin, depending on how they end the season. Wisconsin does play Ohio State, so if they're able to beat Ohio State, they could move up. But also Auburn could be going to the Outback Bowl, is what ESPN is projecting, to play Michigan, which would be a big test because Michigan is a big team, always known in college football. But then there's also an outside chance of the Cotton Bowl, which would be a New Year's Six Bowl. They would play an AAC opponent in Memphis, it's looking like, if they win their conference championship game against Cincinnati. So there's a lot out there for Auburn. I think they could get some good bowls. We'll just have to see what happens on Sunday. Now let's go into basketball, who played Furman last night in Auburn Arena, and it was quite a test for the Auburn Tigers as the Furman Paladins came in and gave Auburn all they could handle, but the Tigers were able to win in overtime. Delaney, you were there as a fan. What did you see from Auburn?
Well, it was definitely a game that started out a little rusty after over a week of not playing. There was a solid 8 minutes in the first half where Auburn couldn't make any of their shots. And I think that the offense, they really clicked more towards the end, but it definitely took some time for them to get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, and Furman really pushed Auburn, especially late in the first half, as they went on an 8-0 run to take an 8-point lead going into halftime. It was honestly, I would think it was probably Auburn's one of their toughest tests, because obviously they were pushed against South Alabama. In the Legends Classic, they were able to dominate pretty handily. So Did you feel like maybe Auburn was feeling was it like the rest that they've had over the week, or were they feeling a little complacent?
I think that going into the game, they probably didn't really expect too much from Furman, as they were a 7-3 team. But I think that it was also just because of the rest and having that week off.
Yeah, and it was mentioned that Auburn did take 4 days off for Thanksgiving, so that can play a big factor coming into a game where you have a lot of rest, and you tend to make mistakes. And Auburn did have a lot of turnovers, a lot of missed passes, so that can affect Auburn. But now they have a week off again, and they go into the Mike Slive Invitational next Saturday, which will be another big test, is against St. Louis, another team just like Furman that we might see in the March Madness come the end of the basketball season. What do you think Auburn's going to have to do going into this non-conference? You've got St. Louis, you've got NC State, a lot of tough tests. What does Auburn have to do to just establish this rhythm again that they had in these last couple games and up until Furman?
I think that those players that have stood out and been dominant so far are going to continue to have to play that way and lead the team. Just a couple, Isaac Okoro, who had career high 18 points last night, along with Austin Wiley, who had 13 points last night, 5 of which came in from overtime to help seal that win. And I think that those are 2 players to watch who are really going to help carry this team and push them to success.
You mentioned Austin Wiley. That's a good point, because he is now really healthy for the first time in his career, is really what Bruce Pearl has said. How big is his contribution to this team's success?
It's huge. He got his 3rd straight double-double last night. Earlier this week, on Monday, he was named the SEC Basketball Player of the Week. So he's just really strong, carrying the team forward, and we expect a lot from him this year.
Yeah, for sure. And he's definitely going to be NBA talent once he really grows in this team. And I think that will be a huge move for Auburn as they come down the stretch and going into SEC play. Well, that's going to do it for us here at Eagle Eye. I'm Andy Hewing, joined by Delaney Barra, and we'll be back next semester as we have more previews for you for sports coming up on the weekend. But for now, thank you for joining us, and War Eagle.